The morning sun cast long shadows across New Geneva Colony as Emma Davis ran through the settlement's main street. Her bright blue eyes sparkled with joy as she chased after a small robotic toy that her father had built for her birthday last month. The 8-year-old girl's laughter echoed between the simple metal buildings that made up humanity's newest home among the stars. Emma stopped running when she saw Mr. Peterson loading supplies into his transport vehicle. The old colonist smiled when he noticed the young girl watching him with curious eyes. "Good morning, Emma," Mr. Peterson said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You're up early today." "Papa is working in his lab again," Emma replied, her small hands clasped behind her back. "Mama said I should play outside so I don't bother him." What made Emma special was something she didn't fully understand yet. When she looked at people, she could feel what they were feeling inside. Right now, she could sense that Mr. Peterson was tired but happy. There was also something else, a warm feeling that adults called love when they looked at their families. Mr. Peterson felt the strange calm that always came when Emma was nearby. All the colonists had noticed it. When the little girl was around, arguments stopped and people felt more peaceful. Even the few alien traders who visited New Geneva commented on the unusual human child who could make anyone feel better just by being present. "Would you like to help me load these boxes?" Mr. Peterson asked. "They're not heavy, and your parents won't mind if you're helping a neighbor." Emma nodded eagerly and picked up a small container. As she handed it to Mr. Peterson, she felt his genuine appreciation. It made her smile even wider. The colony of New Geneva sat on a green world at the edge of known space. 3,000 humans had made their home here, far from Earth's crowded cities and busy spaceports. They grew their own food, built their own homes, and worked together to create something beautiful in the vast emptiness between stars. Dr. Richard Davis spent most of his time in the research laboratory at the colony's center. He studied plant samples and soil compositions, trying to find new ways to help human settlements grow stronger and more independent. His wife Maria worked as a teacher, helping the colony's children learn about science, history, and the dreams that had brought their families to this distant world. The Davis family represented everything, hopeful about humanity's expansion into space. They had left Earth not because they were running from something, but because they believed they could build something better. Emma was born on New Geneva, making her one of the first generation of humans to call another world home far across the galaxy. In a massive space station that orbited no sun, 12 ancient alien species gathered for their monthly council meeting. The Hegemony Council had ruled known space for over 2,000 years. Each species contributed their strengths to maintain order and prevent the chaos that had once torn the galaxy apart in endless wars. Chancellor Vextar of the Chronari Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scaled skin reflecting the cold blue light of the council chamber. His yellow eyes showed no emotion as he reviewed reports from across their territory. The Chronari had always been the military backbone of the council, and Vextar took pride in maintaining peace through strength. Beside him, the representative of the Zephyrian Collective processed information through multiple mechanical implants that replaced most of its original biological brain. The Zephyrians believed that emotion led to poor decisions, so they had gradually replaced their feelings. With pure logic over many centuries, the human expansion continues, the Zephyrian representative stated in its emotionless voice. 17 new colonies established in the past year. Population growth rate exceeds projections by 12%. Chancellor Vextar's clawed fingers tapped against the metal table. Their technology advancement is also concerning. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. Other council members nodded their agreement. The Torcan supremacy worried about human military potential. The ethereal dominion feared human influence on younger species who might question the council's authority. Each species had their own concerns, but all agreed that humanity was becoming a problem. At the center of the council chamber stood the Oracle, a mysterious entity that none of the species fully understood. It appeared as a shifting cloud of energy that could take different forms when it chose to communicate. The Oracle could see possible futures, though its visions were often unclear and open to interpretation. Oracle, Chancellor Vextar commanded. "Show us the future of human expansion." The energy cloud pulsed and began to take shape. Images formed in the air above the council table, showing fleets of human ships. New colonies spreading across dozens of worlds, and something that made every council member feel cold fear. The visions showed humans not just expanding but leading. Other species joined them willingly, drawn by human ideas about freedom and cooperation. In the Oracle's vision, the rigid order that the Hegemony Council had maintained for millennia crumbled as species after species chose to follow human leadership instead of council authority. "When does this future begin?" Zephyrian asked. The Oracle's form shifted and focused on a single image. A small human child with bright blue eyes, playing in a settlement far from Earth. Around the child, the Oracle showed threads of possibility spreading outward like ripples in a pond. "The catalyst exists now," the Oracle said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "A child on the outer rim carries the potential to unite not just humanity, but dozens of species under a banner of freedom. Within one generation, this child's influence will topple our reign." The council chamber fell silent. Each representative processed this information according to their species' nature. The Krenari saw a military threat that needed elimination. Zephyrians calculated probabilities and concluded that preventive action was logical. Other species reached similar conclusions through their own reasoning. "What is the child's current age?" Chancellor Vextar asked. 8 years, the Oracle replied. "Location? New Geneva Colony, Sector 7G. Chancellor Vextar looked around the council table. He saw agreement in every alien face, despite their different shapes and features. Fear was a universal emotion. Even among species that claimed to have evolved beyond such feelings, the decision is unanimous, he announced. "Initiate containment protocol for New Geneva Colony. Authorization code, Hegemony Prime 7. The Zephyrian representative's mechanical implants clicked as it processed the order. Recommended cover story: quarantine enforcement due to biological contamination. Standard procedure for isolated colonies, Proof Vextar said. Deploy Enforcement Division 3 under Captain Zolthan. Complete sterilization required." The council members filed out of the chamber. None of them spoke about what they had just ordered. In their minds, they were preventing a future war that could destroy the galaxy's stability. They told themselves that sacrificing one small colony was necessary to save billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. The Oracle remained in the chamber after the others left. Its energy form pulsing with an emotion that the council members wouldn't have understood. For all their technology and wisdom, the Hegemony Council had made a critical error. They assumed that eliminating one child would prevent the future they feared. They didn't understand that sometimes the act of trying to prevent a future is exactly what causes it to happen. On New Geneva, Emma Davis finished helping Mr. Peterson load his transport. She waved goodbye and ran toward her family's home where her mother was preparing lunch. The little girl had no idea that her innocent existence had just been marked for death by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She also had no idea that her death would awaken something far more terrible than anything the Hegemony Council could imagine. Captain Zolthan stood on the bridge of his flagship as it moved through the darkness between stars. The Hegemony warship was sleek and deadly, built for quick strikes and complete destruction. Behind him, 11 more ships followed in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and ready for battle. The captain's forearms moved across different control panels as he reviewed the mission parameters one final time. New Geneva Colony had been marked for complete elimination under biological quarantine protocols. No survivors were to remain. The operation needed to look like a standard health emergency response. Approaching target system is navigation, officer reported. All ships maintaining stealth configuration. Zolthan nodded with satisfaction. The humans would never see them coming. Their primitive sensor technology couldn't detect hegemony, stealth ships, until it was far too late to mount any defense. On New Geneva, Dr. Richard Davis worked late in his laboratory, studying samples from the planet's northern continent. Had discovered something interesting in the soil composition that might help other human colonies grow better crops. His research could benefit thousands of people across dozens of worlds. The laboratory was quiet, except for the soft humming of analysis equipment. Richard enjoyed these peaceful evening hours when he could focus on his work without interruption. Through the window, he could see the lights of the colony's residential area, where his family was sleeping safely. Maria Davis had tucked Emma into bed 3 hours ago, reading her daughter's favorite story about brave explorers who discovered friendly aliens among the stars. Emma had fallen asleep dreaming of adventures and new friends, her small hand clutching the robotic toy that her father had built for her. The first sign of trouble came from the colony's automated defense system. Warning lights began flashing. In the communication center, as sensors detected multiple objects approaching at high speed, the duty officer, a young man named Jake Miller, stared at his screens in confusion. "This can't be right," Jake muttered to himself. The sensors showed 12 large ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel just outside the planet's atmosphere. But there were no scheduled arrivals, and the ships weren't broadcasting any identification signals. Jake reached for the emergency communication button. But before he could press it, the first energy blasts struck the colony's power grid. Explosions lit up the night sky as the settlement's main generator building disappeared in a ball of fire. Dr. Davis felt the building shake around him as the laboratory's emergency lighting activated. His training kicked in immediately. This wasn't an accident or equipment failure. New Geneva was under attack. Richard's hands flew across his computer keyboard as he accessed the colony's emergency communication system. The main transmitter was down, but he still had access to the research facility's quantum relay. He could send one message to Earth before the attackers destroyed everything. Emergency transmission to Earth Command. Richard spoke into his headset as he uploaded critical data files. New Geneva colony under attack by unknown vessels. Repeat, we are under attack. 12 ships. Advanced technology. No warning given. This is not a pirate raid. Someone wants us dead. Above the colony, Captain Zolthan's ships began their systematic bombardment. Plasma weapons turned buildings into molten slag, while kinetic bombardment destroyed anything that might provide shelter. The attack was precise and overwhelming, designed to eliminate all life as quickly as possible. Maria Davis woke to the sound of explosions and her daughter's terrified crying. She grabbed Emma from her bed and ran toward the community center, which had been built with reinforced walls in case of emergencies. Other families had the same idea, and soon dozens of colonists were huddled together in the building's basement. Emma's special abilities made the terror around her even worse. She could feel the fear and panic of everyone in the shelter. Parents, worried about their children, cried for comfort that their parents couldn't provide. The emotional storm was overwhelming for a little girl who usually only sensed happiness and love. "Mama, why are they hurting us?" Emma asked, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't do anything bad." Maria held her daughter close, trying to stay calm even though she could see the orange glow of fires through the basement windows. "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes bad people do things that don't make sense." The bombardment continued for 2 hours. Captain Zolthan's ships methodically destroyed every structure in the colony while automated scanners searched for life signs. When the scanners detected the community center's basement, the captain ordered a direct strike. The building collapsed in seconds, burying the families who had sought shelter inside. Emma Davis died holding her mother's hand, her last thought reaching out into the darkness around them. Her final emotion was not fear or anger, but sadness that she would never see her father again. Dr. Richard Davis was still alive in his laboratory when the ground troops arrived. Hegemony soldiers in powered armor searched through the rubble, eliminating any survivors they found with precise weapons fire. Richard managed to hide behind his equipment until the soldiers moved to another section of the ruins, as he lay bleeding. From debris wounds, Richard activated his computer one more time. The quantum relay was damaged, but still functional. He sent a final message containing everything he had observed about the attack, including sensor readings that showed the attacking ships, weapon signatures, and energy patterns. "Tell my family story," Richard whispered into his headset as his life faded away. "Don't let them die for nothing." The message traveled across space at faster-than-light speed, riding quantum entanglement waves toward Earth. It would take 6 hours to reach human space, but when it arrived, it would carry information that would change everything. On Earth, President Jack Morrison was sleeping when his emergency communication system activated. The urgent tone that filled his bedroom was one he had hoped never to hear during his presidency. It meant that human colonies were in danger. Morrison sat up in bed and pressed the acceptance button on his communication panel. Dr. Richard Davis's voice filled the room, carrying news that made the president's blood run cold. "Mr. President," Morrison's aide said through the intercom, "we're receiving multiple data streams from New Geneva Colony. You need to see this immediately." 20 minutes later, Morrison stood in the White House Situation Room with his top military advisors. Admiral Linda Carter, Chief of Naval Operations, studied the attack data with growing concern. "These weapon signatures don't match any known technology," Admiral Carter reported. "The attacking ships use plasma weapons more advanced than anything in our database. This wasn't pirates or rebels, someone with serious military capability. Wanted New Geneva eliminated?" "How many survivors?" Morrison asked, though he already feared the answer. "None, sir. The attack was designed for complete elimination. 3,000 people, including families and children." Morrison stared at the tactical display showing the remains of New Geneva Colony. His hands clenched into fists as he processed the magnitude of what had happened. "Admiral Carter, I want every ship we have searching for these attackers. If they think they can murder human families without consequences, they're about to learn otherwise." "Yes, sir. But there's something else you need to know." Carter's face was pale as she accessed another file. Dr. Davis's final transmission contained more than just attack data. His equipment recorded quantum resonance patterns during the bombardment. The patterns matched theoretical models from Project Deep Sleep. Morrison's expression changed from anger to confusion. Deep Sleep was terminated decades ago. Files are classified beyond top secret. "Sir, I think we need to activate Protocol 7. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, something ancient stirred. The quantum resonance patterns from Emma Davis's death had traveled farther than anyone could have imagined. Her final emotional scream, amplified by abilities she never fully understood, reached across space and time to touch something that had been waiting in Earth's deepest waters. The first tremor registered on seismic monitors as a minor underwater earthquake. The second tremor formed a perfect geometric pattern that made no geological sense. By the third tremor, scientists around the world were staring at their instruments in confusion. Deep beneath the waves, systems that had slept for centuries began to wake up. Ancient lights flickered to life in the darkness as artificial intelligence networks analyzed the signal that had disturbed their rest. They processed the data about New Geneva Colony, about Emma Davis, and about the threat that had eliminated innocent human families. The sleeping giants of Earth's oceans were waking up, and they were very, very angry. The Pacific Ocean had been calm for 3 days since the first tremors began. Scientists around the world watched their instruments with growing confusion as the seismic patterns made no sense according to known geology. The movements deep beneath the waves followed perfect mathematical sequences that suggested intelligence rather than natural forces. Dr. Patricia Wells sat in her monitoring station beneath the Colorado mountains, studying quantum resonance readings that shouldn't exist. She had spent 30 years tracking unusual energy patterns for a government project, so secret that most presidents never learned about it. Her job was to watch for signs that something ancient might be waking up. "The patterns are accelerating," Patricia said into her headset, speaking to Admiral Linda Carter in Washington. "Whatever is down there, it's responding to the New Geneva incident." "Are you certain about the connection?" Admiral Carter asked through the secure communication link. Patricia looked at her screens, showing energy signatures that matched theoretical models from decades ago. The quantum resonance began. Exactly 47 minutes after Dr. Davis sent his final transmission, something heard Emma Davis die, and it's very upset about it. 60 miles off the coast of San Francisco, the ocean began to move in ways that violated basic physics. Water rose in perfect spiral patterns while electromagnetic fields caused compasses to spin wildly on nearby ships. Commercial vessels reported equipment failures and navigation problems throughout the area. The first breach came at dawn on the fourth day. Captain Pete Jackson of the cargo ship Northern Star watched in amazement as something impossible rose from the depths. The water around his ship began to glow with soft blue light as a massive structure emerged from the ocean floor. The ship. That surface defied every human understanding of engineering. It was over 2 miles long, its hull made of materials that seemed to shift between metal and something almost alive. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with the same blue light that filled the surrounding water. "Coast Guard, this is Northern Star," Captain Jackson radioed, his voice shaking with awe. "You're not going to believe what I'm seeing out here." More ships began rising from the ocean depths. Each one was different, but clearly built by the same advanced technology. Some were sleek and fast, others were massive and heavily armed. Of them bore symbols that identified them as human vessels, though no human alive remembered building them. Inside the lead ship, Admiral Katie Sullivan opened her eyes for the first time in over 300 years. The stasis chamber that had preserved her life slowly released its hold, allowing her to breathe normal air again. Her body felt strange after so long in suspended animation, but her mind was clear and focused. "Welcome back, Admiral," said a voice that seemed to come from the ship itself. "I am Athena, your ship's artificial intelligence. We have been awakened by a quantum distress signal from the outer colonies." Katie sat up slowly, her memories returning in fragments. She remembered volunteering for the Deep Sleep Project, agreeing to command Earth's secret fleet when humanity faced its greatest threat. The details were hazy, but she knew her purpose remained the same. "Status report," Katie ordered as she stood on unsteady legs. 15 ships have achieved operational status," Athena replied. "All crew members are awakening from stasis. The fleet is fully armed and ready for deployment." Around the flagship, other vessels completed their awakening procedures. "Commander." Alex Turner rubbed his temples as he tried to remember why he had agreed to sleep for centuries in the depths of Earth's oceans. Captain Ryan Brooks checked his ship's weapon systems. Finding them charged and ready despite the long dormancy, the ancient fleet had been humanity's greatest secret, built during a golden age of technology that modern humans had somehow forgotten. Each ship represented capabilities that current Earth science considered impossible. They possessed weapons that could manipulate space and time, shields that operated on quantum probability, and engines that moved through dimensions beyond normal. Space. President Morrison received the first reports while eating breakfast in the White House. Admiral Carter called him directly, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "Mr. President, we have confirmation. The ancient fleet is real, and it's awake." Morrison set down his coffee cup, trying to process information that sounded like science fiction. "How many ships?" 15 confirmed, possibly more still rising. "The lead vessel is over 2 miles long. Our satellites can't get clear readings. On their technology, are they friendly?" "They're broadcasting human identification codes, sir. Codes that are over 300 years old, but still valid according to our oldest military databases." Morrison walked to his office window, looking out at the morning sky and wondering what other secrets his planet might be hiding. "Admiral, I want to speak with whoever is commanding those ships." An hour later, President Morrison found himself in the most unusual video conference of his life. The face on his screen belonged to a woman who appeared to be in her 40s, though her eyes held the depth of someone much older. "Mr. President, I am Admiral Katie Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. I understand that human colonies have been attacked by alien forces." Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, I need to understand what your fleet is and where it came from." Katie's expression was serious as she chose her words carefully. "Mr. President, 3 centuries ago, humanity achieved a level of technology that we knew would make us a target. We built this fleet and hid it in Earth's oceans, waiting for the day when our species would face extinction. That day has come. The attack on New Geneva was carried out by something called the Hegemony Council," Morrison explained. "They killed 3,000 innocent people, including families and children, Katie's face hardened with cold anger. Athena. Display tactical analysis of the New Geneva attack. Holographic displays appeared in the air around Katie, showing weapon signatures and ship designs that she recognized from ancient databases. The Hegemony Council. We knew this day would come. They rule the galaxy through fear and oppression, eliminating any species that might challenge their authority. What are our options? Morrison asked. Mr. President, your modern fleet is brave but outmatched. The hegemony has technology centuries ahead of current human capabilities.
However,
our ancient fleet was built specifically to fight threats like this. Morrison studied the woman on his screen, trying to understand the implications of what she was telling him. Admiral, are you saying we can fight back, sir? We can do more than fight back? We can win. Across the galaxy, hegemony sensor stations detected quantum signatures that didn't match anything in their databases. Chancellor Vexstar received urgent reports from his intelligence division about unusual energy readings from the human home system. The signatures are unlike anything we've encountered, his chief analyst reported. Our scouts cannot get close enough for detailed scans. The energy patterns interfere with our ship systems. Vexstar's scaled face showed concern for the first time in decades. How is this possible? Human technology is primitive compared to our capabilities. Sir, we may have underestimated them. These readings suggest capabilities that exceed our own in several areas. Chancellor stared at tactical displays showing the human solar system. The operation against New Geneva colony should have been simple and clean. Instead, it seemed to have awakened something that his analysts couldn't understand or predict. Double the patrols around human space, Vexstar ordered. If they are planning some kind of retaliation, we need to be ready. Back on Earth, the ancient fleet completed its awakening procedures. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at displays that showed the current state of the galaxy. What she saw filled her with quiet rage. The Hegemony Council had spent centuries oppressing dozens of species, keeping them weak and divided to maintain their own power. Entire civilizations had been held back from technological advancement. Billions of beings lived as slaves or second-class citizens under Council rule. Athena analyzed hegemony military capabilities and deployment patterns. Analysis complete, Admiral. The hegemony relies on superior numbers and conventional tactics. Their technology is advanced but predictable. They have no defense against our quantum manipulation capabilities. Katie nodded grimly. Then it's time to remind the galaxy what happens when someone murders human children. She turned to address her crew, men and women who had slept for centuries waiting for this moment. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. We have awakened to find our people under attack by an enemy that believes strength gives them the right to kill innocents. They are about to learn that humanity has been preparing for this fight longer than they can imagine. The ancient fleet began moving through Earth's oceans toward open space. Each ship was a masterpiece of technology that operated beyond known physics. They would soon teach the Hegemony Council the most important lesson in galactic history. Some threats should never be awakened. Admiral Katie Sullivan stood in the command center of her flagship, studying holographic displays that showed the current state of the galaxy. The information Athena provided was both detailed and horrifying. The Hegemony Council had been systematically eliminating human potential for years, and New Geneva was just their latest crime. Show me the pattern, Katie ordered. The display changed to show a timeline of attacks against human colonies over the past 5 years. 17 settlements had been destroyed under various pretexts. Research stations studying advanced technology were hit by equipment failures. Colonies with promising leaders faced plague outbreaks. Trading posts on important routes suffered pirate attacks. Over 40,000 human deaths, Athena reported in her calm, artificial voice. All incidents occurred after the subjects showed exceptional abilities in leadership. Scientific research, or what hegemony analysts classify as coalition-building potential. Katie's hands clenched into fists as she processed the scale of the conspiracy. They've been hunting us, picking off anyone who might unite humanity or challenge their authority. Commander Alex Turner joined her at the command center, his face grim after reviewing his own intelligence reports. Admiral, it's worse than systematic elimination. They've been studying us. Every attack provided them with data about human capabilities. In responses, "What's our current operational status?" Katie asked. "All 15 ships are ready for combat operations. The UES Retribution under Captain Helen Foster is requesting permission to begin reconnaissance of hegemony patrol routes." Katie nodded. Approved. "But Alex, we're not just going to strike random targets. Need to understand their full operation before we show them what we're capable of." The UES Retribution was the smallest ship in the ancient fleet, built for stealth and speed rather than heavy combat. Captain Helen Foster had volunteered for the most dangerous missions during the fleet's original deployment, and she felt comfortable operating alone behind enemy lines. "Take us to the New Geneva system," Helen ordered her crew. "I want to see what they left behind." The Retribution moved through space using technology that the hegemony couldn't detect. Instead of normal faster-than-light travel, the ship slipped between dimensions, appearing to simply vanish from normal space before reappearing at its destination. The ruins of New Geneva colony were exactly what Helen expected to find. The planet's surface showed the precise destruction pattern of a military sterilization operation. Nothing had been left to chance. Every building, every vehicle, every piece of equipment had been systematically destroyed. "Landing party, prepare for surface operations," Helen announced. "Full environmental suits. We're going to find out exactly what happened here." The team that descended to New Geneva's surface included specialists in forensic analysis and quantum archaeology. Their equipment could reconstruct events from energy residue and molecular traces that normal investigators would never notice. Lieutenant Gary Powell scanned the remains of the colony's community center, where his instruments detected the highest concentration of human life signs before the attack. "Captain, I'm reading 47 distinct human signatures in this location. Most of them were children and elderly colonists." Captain Foster felt a cold rage building in her chest as she understood what the readings meant. They went after the civilians first, made sure the families couldn't escape. The team spent hours documenting the attack pattern and collecting evidence. When they found the small area where Emma Davis had died, their quantum scanners detected something unusual. The 8-year-old girl's final moments had left an energy signature unlike anything in their databases. Captain Lieutenant Powell called out, his voice tight with emotion, "You need to see this." Helen approached the scanner display showing Emma's final emotional state. The readings indicated not just fear or pain, but a powerful psychic scream that had somehow resonated across quantum dimensions. The little girl's death had been felt by sensitive minds across the galaxy. She was the trigger, Helen realized. Emma Davis wasn't just a victim. Her death was what woke up our fleet. Back on the Retribution, Helen contacted Admiral Sullivan with her findings. "Admiral, the New Geneva attack was specifically designed to eliminate human families. They targeted civilians to prevent any organized resistance." Katie's face showed controlled fury as she processed the report. "Captain, what's your recommendation?" "Permission to begin hunting operations?" "Admiral, the hegemony wants to play elimination games with human children. Let's show them what happens when someone targets our families." "Permission granted. Begin with patrol routes near human space. I want them to know we're coming." The first hegemony patrol to encounter the ancient fleet never had a chance to send a distress signal. Captain Foster's ship appeared without warning. In the middle of their formation, weapons already charged and targeting systems locked on. The patrol consisted of 12 ships, standard hegemony enforcement squadron. Their commanders had been briefed about potential human retaliation, but they expected primitive weapons and desperate tactics. They were not prepared for technology that operated beyond their understanding of physics. The UES Retribution fired. Once, the weapon didn't use energy beams or kinetic projectiles. Instead, it manipulated local spacetime, creating a field that aged the enemy ships by several centuries in the span of seconds. 12 advanced warships became drifting hulks of corroded metal and failed systems. Message transmitted to all hegemony forces, Helen announced to her crew. "This is what happens to those who murder human children." News of the patrol's destruction spread quickly through hegemony communication networks. Chancellor Vextar studied the battle reports with growing concern. His military advisors couldn't explain how 12 ships had been destroyed without any recorded weapons fire. The human ships are using unknown technology, his chief of staff reported. Our scouts can't get close enough for detailed analysis. Every time they try to engage, the human vessels simply disappear. How many ships do they have? Vextar demanded. Intelligence estimates between 10 and 20 vessels. But sir, their individual capabilities appear to exceed our fleet units by significant margins. Vextar's scaled fingers drummed against his command chair. Elimination of New Geneva colony should have prevented human retaliation by removing their potential leaders. Instead, it had awakened something far more dangerous than his analysts had predicted. Double our patrol schedules, institute convoy protocols for all military movements, and find me more information about these human ships. The ancient fleet began a systematic campaign against hegemony forces. Each ship operated independently, striking different targets to create the impression of a much larger force. The UES Vengeance specialized in destroying supply convoys. The UES Justice targeted communication stations. The UES Liberation focused on freeing prison ships carrying enslaved populations. Captain Ryan Brooks commanded the UES Liberation, and his ship was designed for rescue operations rather than pure combat. When he encountered a hegemony prison transport carrying 300 beings from a dozen different species, he saw an opportunity to strike at the Council's foundation. This is Captain Brooks of the Earth Defense Fleet. He broadcast to the transport, "You're ordered to release your prisoners immediately." The transport's commander, a Chronari officer named Captain Sektar, responded with typical hegemony arrogance. "Human vessel, you are in violation of hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Brooks smiled grimly. Wrong answer. Liberation's weapons didn't destroy the transport. Instead, they precisely disabled its engines and weapon systems while leaving life support intact. Then the human ship moved alongside and began cutting through the transport's hull. With tools that the hegemony had never encountered, "Boarding party, move in," Brooks ordered. "Free the prisoners and secure any intelligence materials." They're rescued. Beings couldn't believe what they were seeing. For centuries, they had lived under hegemony oppression with no hope of freedom. Now humans were risking their lives to save complete strangers from species they had never met. Elderly Torkan named Elder Vashti spoke for the rescued prisoners. "You men, Captain, why do you help us? We are not your people." Brooks looked at the freed beings standing in his ship's cargo bay. "Because someone has to stand up to bullies. And because every species deserves to be free." As word of these rescues spread across the galaxy, something remarkable began to happen. Species that had been oppressed for generations started to whisper about the humans who struck without warning and disappeared like ghosts. Hope began to grow in places where it had been dead for centuries. The ancient fleet was doing more than seeking revenge for New Geneva colony. They were planting the seeds of galactic revolution. News of the ancient fleet's victories spread across the galaxy faster than the Hegemony Council could control. Species that had lived under oppression for centuries began to speak in whispers about the humans who appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible weapons, and vanished like shadows. On the mining world of Kethtor, enslaved Torkan workers heard stories of prison ships being liberated by mysterious human vessels. In the factory cities of Zephyr Prime, cybernetic slaves shared data about hegemony supply convoys being destroyed by ships that seemed to bend space itself. Chancellor Vextar stood in his private chambers, staring at tactical displays that showed red markers across dozens of star systems. Each marker represented a hegemony facility that had been attacked or destroyed by the human fleet. The pattern was clear and terrifying. They're not just seeking revenge, Vextar realized as he studied the attack locations. They're deliberately targeting our control structure. His chief military advisor, General Karthak, approached with the latest intelligence reports. "Chancellor, we've lost contact with 17 patrol squadrons, 8 supply convoys, and 12 prison transports. The human ships strike without warning and disappear before our reinforcements can arrive." "How many ships are we facing?" Doxter demanded. "Intelligence estimates 15 vessels, but they're operating with capabilities that exceed our understanding. A single human ship destroyed an entire patrol squadron without taking damage. Vexstar's forearms gestured angrily at the displays. 15 ships are crippling our entire military structure. This is impossible. Sir, I recommend we consolidate our forces at Supremus Prime. If we can draw the human fleet into a direct confrontation, our superior numbers should guarantee victory. The Chancellor considered this strategy. Supremus Prime was the hegemony's capital world protected by the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. If the human fleet could be lured there, 3,000 hegemony warships would be waiting for them. Issue the order, Vexstar decided. Recall all military units. To Supremus Prime, we'll end this human threat once and for all. Admiral Katie Sullivan received intelligence about the hegemony fleet movement through her network of liberated prisoners and sympathetic species. A THENA's analysis confirmed what she suspected about Chancellor Vexstar's strategy. The hegemony is consolidating their entire battle fleet at their capital world, Athena reported. 3,000 ships in defensive formation around the most heavily fortified planet in known space. Commander Alex Turner studied the tactical displays with concern. Admiral, that's 20 times our numbers. Even with our technological advantages, those odds are extreme. Katie smiled grimly as she reviewed the battle plan she had been developing. Alex, conventional tactics would make this suicide. But we're not going to fight a conventional battle. The ancient fleet gathered at the edge of hegemony space, their 15 ships forming a formation that would have looked insignificant compared to the massive force waiting at Supremus Prime, but each vessel carried technology that operated beyond normal understanding of physics. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan, Katie broadcast to her fleet. Today we end the hegemony's reign of terror. They believe superior numbers guarantee victory. We're going to teach them that they're wrong. Captain Helen Foster aboard the U.S. Retribution responded first. Retribution ready for temporal displacement operations. Captain Ryan Brooks from the U.S. Liberation confirmed his ship's status. Liberation standing by for quantum field generation. One by one, the other ships reported their readiness. Each vessel had specialized capabilities that would contribute to the overall battle plan. The UES Vengeance could manipulate time flow around enemy ships. UES Justice could phase enemy vessels out of normal space. The UES Defiance could create localized gravity wells that crushed anything caught inside them. At Supremus Prime, Chancellor Vexstar waited on his command ship at the center of the largest military formation in galactic history. Hegemony vessels from 12 different species formed defensive rings around the capital world. Every weapon was charged and ready. Sensors detect quantum signatures approaching the system, his navigation officer reported. 15 contacts, moving at impossible speeds. Finally, Vexstar muttered, "Open fire the moment they enter weapons range." The ancient fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Supremus system. To the hegemony sensors, it appeared that the human ships were moving normally toward the planet. The Chancellor's forces opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of energy beams and kinetic projectiles filled space around the ancient fleet. The hegemony expected to see the human ships destroyed in the opening salvo. Instead, they watched in horror as their weapons simply passed through the human vessels without causing any damage. "What's happening?" Vexstar demanded. "Sir, the human ships appear to be phasing in and out of normal space. Our weapons can't lock onto them." Admiral Sullivan's voice echoed across every hegemony communication frequency. "Chancellor Vexstar, you ordered the murder of innocent human families. You targeted children to prevent futures you feared. Today, you face the consequences of those choices." The ancient fleet began their attack using the most devastating capability they possessed. Working in perfect coordination, the 15 ships created a localized temporal field around the entire Supremus system. To outside observers, the battle would appear to last only minutes. But within the temporal field, time moved differently. Hegemony forces found themselves trapped in slowed time while the ancient fleet operated at normal speed. Human ships moved through the enemy formation like ghosts, their weapons destroying multiple targets before the hegemony could react. "Captain, Foster's ship aged entire squadrons of enemy vessels into scrap metal. Captain Brooks used quantum disruption fields to simply cause enemy ships to stop existing on a molecular level. Other ancient fleet vessels employed weapons that the hegemony had no defense against. The battle raged for subjective hours within the temporal field. Chancellor Vexstar watched his massive fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to operate outside the normal laws of physics. Ship after ship vanished or crumbled into dust as the ancient fleet demonstrated capabilities that exceeded even their worst fears. Surrender, Vexstar finally broadcast, his voice defeated. We surrender. The temporal field collapsed, returning normal time flow to the system, where 3,000 hegemony warships had waited in formation. Only a few hundred damaged vessels remained. The rest had been reduced to drifting debris, or had simply ceased to exist. Admiral Sullivan's flagship moved alongside the Chancellor's command ship. Chancellor Vexstar, you will come aboard my vessel to discuss terms. An hour later, Vexstar stood in the command center of the UES Defiance, surrounded by humans whose technology made his own civilization look primitive. Admiral Sullivan faced him across a conference table that projected holographic displays of the galaxy. The Hegemony Council is dissolved, Katie announced. All species under Council control are granted immediate independence. Your war crimes tribunals will begin within the month. Vexstar's scaled face showed defeat and confusion. How is this possible? Your technology exceeds ours by centuries. Where did you develop such capabilities? Katie's expression was cold as she answered. We didn't develop this technology, Chancellor. We've always had it. Your mistake was believing that a species capable of creating these ships would remain helpless forever. The human child on New Geneva, Vexstar said quietly, was the key to awakening your fleet. Emma Davis was an innocent little girl who died holding her mother's hand, Katie replied. Her death was a tragedy that could have been prevented if you had chosen wisdom over fear. Instead, you chose to murder children to prevent possible futures. The aftermath of the Battle of Supremus Prime changed the galaxy forever. The Galactic Freedom Coalition was established with Earth not as its ruler, but as its protector. Species that had been oppressed for millennia finally had the chance to determine their own destinies. Emma Davis was posthumously honored as the catalyst who had awakened humanity's true potential. Her memorial on the rebuilt New Geneva colony bore a simple inscription. She died as she lived, bringing hope to others. The ancient fleet returned to Earth's oceans, but not to sleep. They remained vigilant, ready to respond if anyone ever again threatened the innocent or oppressed the free. The galaxy had learned that some lines should never be crossed. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at stars that now represented freedom rather than fear. She thought of a little girl who had never known she would change the galaxy, and how that moment of innocent suffering had become the foundation for galactic liberation. Emma Davis had died for no good reason, but her legacy ensured that no other child would suffer the same fate.